Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast and now game 1 in a series between GL's Snute versus mTw's SuperNova. GL Snute spawning as the blue Zerg here at the 11 o'clock position, meanwhile mTw SuperNova spawning as the red Terran. Now I do believe I've never cast any of these particular players, so I did do a little bit of research. GL Snute, part of, I believe it's Team Gamers League, and is a Norwegian player, currently 22 years old. Meanwhile, mTw SuperNova is a very well-known Korean player part of mTw, was in Code A and Code S for a short while. I don't know where he is placing currently, but perhaps both of these players are back on the rise, and we'll see what the strategies will be in this Terran versus Zerg. Now, Terran versus Zerg has been very interesting as of late, as some of the professional Korean players have been utilizing a lot more Raven strategies. I believe David Kim even talked about it during a situation report. Initially there was talks about perhaps increasing the Raven movement speed, but now that Terran players are starting to utilize the Raven a bit more, he thinks that he doesn't need that Raven speed increase. And I still think the Raven is perhaps one of the most expensive casters out there. Very inefficient. 125 energy for one of their spells. You can't really do multiple, and they're also very expensive overall. But you know, Ravens, they are flying air units, so that will definitely help them. Alright, let's take a look at this. Snute is opening up with a 15 hatchery. Meanwhile, we also see a 16 command center coming in from SuperNova. Both of these players opening up very economically, and SuperNova doing this a bit blind. Perhaps he is going to force Snute to try and set up a hatchery here around the 4-minute mark and do a double expand, as we are seeing a barracks now being added on the front door. You can see the add-on position is already there, going for that fast command center into that barracks. The Overlord is going to spot overhead, spot that there is a refinery here, and Snute hasn't spotted what's going on here on the front door. Perhaps he knows the timings, but I can't imagine that he knows that there's already a command center being placed down here. Alright, let's take a look. Snute has no idea what's going on here. He doesn't know that it's a fast expansion, but he wanted to make sure that the Overlord was not caught in a position where it could get shot down. Normally, a lot of Zerg players do send over one drone at least to scout out this position. Not quite sure why he didn't do exactly that. Alright, need to make sure that my microphone is actually activated now that I have a mute switch. SCV still wandering around here. I'm gonna take a look around inside the base and see that there is still no gas. So without any gas, Snute's options are pretty much limited to playing a very defensive economic game. He could try to take up this third base, but he will need about 4 queens, maybe even 5, to really connect all of the creep and be able to defend that location here, since it is a bit of a walk for queens. You can see more and more queens are being trained. It is going to be going into 4-queen play, and Snute now tries to come over, still does not know about this base here, so that is going to hurt him tremendously, and he's playing a bit in the dark. SuperNova opting to go for reactor Hellions, and reactor Hellions are going to be very effective at least containing Snute. Hellions now with a range of 5 against queens with a range of 5. The Hellions really cannot go up against those queens. Queens have so many more hit points, and because they're not light units, don't take that much damage. Right now we're seeing SuperNova now transition into perhaps a 1-1-1 build after a fast command center, and we are going to be getting that tech lab down now. So 2 Hellions will be being trained up in just a moment. SCV being able to return home ever so barely, as the Marines were able to escort it back, and oh, down goes a scouting Zergling as well. Alright, I am a bit surprised that Snute has not taken this base just quite yet. Normally Zerg players do want to get up on bases. He hasn't even set up a macro hatch yet, but he is going very heavy on queens. He is getting his 5th queen already, and he's laying down those creep tumors as quickly as possible to start that creep spread. He needs to get this front door creep spread out a little bit faster as well. Then he'll be able to jump creep tumors down the ramp here and then pretty much cover his quarter of the map. One Zergling was able to spot this here, Was he able to click on minerals is a key question to see how many minerals were actually mined out. And I'm a little curious as to SuperNova's antics here. You can already see that some of these mineral patches are very low, down to 1,000. A third of them are already gone. But some of the close ones as well have not even been mined from. Harvester count is 34 compared to 35. Hellions are now on the move. SuperNova gonna scout that out, realize that there isn't an expansion there, and now try to push in with these Hellions. Hellions able to starburst and take down one, and oh, was that one very, very dead Hellion there, as the Roaches and Queens were able to defend. The Queens, however, do have to back off. They're not going to be able to fight off of creep, and the Roaches are not going to be doing all too well either. We are going into Cloaked Banshee play, so this is very typical play. I would say 3-4 months ago, very standard strategies, Hellions into Cloaked Banshees. But how effective will it really be? This Banshee now moving across the center may get off and may be able to take down a Roach or two, but it's not really going to be dealing that much damage. The Banshee now trying to do a little bit of that move and shoot. It does have a faster movement speed, decides not to chase, and I don't know if I agree with that. SuperNova pretty much already tipped his hand by revealing that Banshee. His opponent is already going to be going into Spore Crawlers, and he doesn't even have a Roach to show for it as a kill. Alright, Banshee still flying around. I'm still, Snute finally establishing that third base now at the 9-minute mark, but it will be a bit delayed as SuperNova already expanding. Here you can see that the orbital command is about, what, 75-80% done. Will be able to lift off and land and then transfer a lot of units over, or perhaps just try to saturate the current bases. Going into double armory play, so SuperNova with only 3 production buildings so far, really going heavy mech style or perhaps heavy air. We still need to see what the strategy is. As of yet, the Banshee not going to be able to, able to cloak and now perhaps get up onto the high ground. How much damage is it going to be able to do? Now slipping up here, there is, I believe, a Spore Crawler in each of the bases, so the Banshee is going to be very, very limited in terms of damage. Getting off 1 drone kill, already up to 2 kills, but that is not much overall, as the Queens are now making their way over. Hellions, however, able to get in, and the Hellions attempting to take down a Spore Crawler. Normally this would not work at all, but with this many Hellions, it could work out as they're able to just deal damage and whittle it away. Still, 1 Banshee sitting in the backfield trying to get off more kills, gets off another kill there, needs to back off. Down to 17 hit points, down to, nope, is able to barely back off, as now the Hellions going up against Roaches. That is not a good fight. Roaches deal full damage, meanwhile Hellions only deal 8 damage per attack. Alright, an Overlord trying to spew some creep. It will be able to block this orbital command for a short amount of time. Perhaps the orbital command, and we'll be landing here in just a moment. Hellions and Banshees still pulling back. We are going very heavy into mech play still. Blue Flame Hellions, level 1 weapons and armor upgrades, double training Thors. And this is going to be a very interesting strategy. The Thors are very effective against Queens, perhaps one of the best units against Queens, since it does deal full damage. The problem will be the number of Roaches that Snute tries to counter with. Normally Roaches versus Thors, the Thors should win, but because Roaches are able to focus fire and because you're able to mass up Roaches so quickly, those Roaches can just take them down, kind of shoot and scoot with 25, 30 Roaches pushing forward together. Blue Flame Hellion now coming online, and we're going to see Hellions perhaps being able to 2-shot drones once more, something that we saw about a year and a half ago, as the Hellions now, starbursting, taking down creep tumors and also taking down some units here. The Banshees are going to come in and try to finish it off. There is Cloak as well, and a beautiful turnaround, almost baiting Snute to attack, only to come back in over the top with Banshees and now clear them up. Alright, an Overseer is in the air. The Queens now getting off a little bit more damage once more. Hellions battling up against the Zerglings. The Zerglings have been able to deal a lot of damage here. The Hellion count has been falling, now down to 10, as we do see and Fungal Growth taking down another Banshee. 3 base Terran versus 3 base Zerg. SuperNova still just mining away, and we'll see where he will be going next. Zerglings just getting absolutely roasted and toasted with that Blue Flame attack. Already a lot of kills on those Hellions there, trying to gain map control. And Snute is going to be going very heavy into these roaches. This is a strategy where the Banshees counter the roaches, the Blue Flame Hellions counter the Zerglings, and the Thors are meant to counter everything else. If the Thors are able to march on across the field with SCVs, they are very difficult to take down, just because normally Zerg units come in waves, and with the certain combination of SuperNova, he should be able to push back each wave and then come back and be healed once more. The Hellions are dealing 21 damage per attack. The drones have 2 armor, so you still need a little bit more damage to be able to 2-shot them. Very nice play by Snute. We are going into the Pneumatized Carapace and the Ventral Sacs. And we'll see where we will be going next. Roaches now coming back in and now getting forced to retreat. The Roaches do not have movement speed, surprisingly. Glio Reconstitution just now getting research, and Snute perhaps realizing his mistake and now being forced to come back, as the Roaches now trying to engage against Banshees again and getting picked off once more. This is not a good situation at all for Snute. If Snute had the movement speed upgrade, I'm sure he would be in a much better situation. Roaches have been able to take down the Hellion sitting off here at the 12 o'clock position. These rocks need to get taken down. We already see the center expansion now being taken by Snute. So Snute trying to double expand, but SuperNova one step ahead, already doing a triple expand, getting 4 command centers at a time. Where is that 4th one? The 4th one here. And I guess at this stage, he can just say, you know what, I'm going to lift off and land. And if you find all of my expansions, good for you. Alright, Banshee's going to go ahead and shoot down, take down, or cancel a hatchery. Roaches are going to be forced to come back once more. We see some burrowed Infestors now making their way in. And how much damage is this going to do? Infested Terrans can cause so many problems inside the base, and you can see that the Infestors are just making their way in. There's a lot of siege tanks, plenty of scouting, and what are these Infested Terrans going to do? Do they even have movement? Do they even have weapon upgrades? That is going to be a key question as well. Alright, here we go. Let's see if we're going to see an attack. And no, another group of Infestors now making their way in. Roaches do not have weapons upgrade, perhaps waiting for level 1 missile attack before actually spawning the Infested Terran, which would work out well. Out comes the Infestors. There's some fungal growth, not even bothering with Infested Terrans. Just going to chain it, and wow! 29 worker kills, and what's happening over here? Another group of worker kills, and a beautiful, beautiful cleanup there. We all of a sudden 41 workers killed in a matter of seconds, and SuperNova now down to 44 SCVs compared to 78 drones. A brilliant sneak attack as SuperNova quickly shoring up his defenses with 2 missile turrets, but the damage has already been done. Alright, command center, perhaps upgrading to a planetary fortress eventually. Ravens are being added here, and we are going to be seeing a drop come in from Snute. Snute going in for that Doom drop, going to be hiding along the bottom side here, perhaps going to circumnavigate around the sensor tower, come down. No, he's going to come straight across now. There are missile turrets though, and this could spell very bad news here, as we are going to see overlords. 1 overlord down, 2 overlords are going to get shot down. A lot of roaches are lost before they're even in the field, as we now see roaches are inside the base. We see a lot of units coming up over here as well, but the Banshees are taking care of them. Mass roaches trying to push inside siege tanks and Thors. Thors are a very slow-moving army. That is the problem, trying to get over and into position. The Thors are now attacking the overlords. That is not going to be helpful, as the roaches are just trying to see where they can still hit, taking down some missile turrets, perhaps some supply depots as well. You can see a little bit of an army trade here. This is not working out well for Snute, but Snute has forced SuperNova to go back inside his base, as we now see Queens and Roaches pushing back an expansion. It is still 4 bases to 3 now, but Snute has nothing mining in from the central location. Roaches now trying to push in through the center, but somehow the Banshees, the sheer mass number of Banshees, only 4, it feels like a lot more. The Banshees have just been able to clean up so many of the bases, or so many of the units, as they're trying to attack, especially against this very heavy Roach army. Alright, siege tanks of SuperNova. SuperNova now coming in on the counterattack. Snute is very low in terms of his army composition. Production shows a lot of Roaches and Zerglings, but will it be enough? Level 3 weapons upgrade for both sides coming in. And the Raven going to be cleaning up so many of these creep tumors here as the siege tanks of SuperNova now holding the center ground. Alright. Spore Crawler is going to get destroyed. You can see mass orbital commands will be able to strip mine pretty effectively here. Hellions, Roaches, both sides still battling it out. Roaches trying to run away from Banshees still, as drones. Snute is now down to essentially 2 bases, as his main base has already been mined out, and his 4th base has been destroyed here on the center high ground. SuperNova looking so strong right now. These siege tanks blasting away from the high ground, and the Zerglings need to figure out where to go as we see 2 Infestors quickly get destroyed. Zerglings now perhaps trying to do a quick run by here. How much damage, if any, will it do? Look at the siege tanks and the Hellions. Banshees will be able to handle that with no problem whatsoever, as we're still seeing a little bit of a movement here. So SuperNova with patrolling Banshees in multiple locations, and now just coming straight up the middle with this massive siege tank, Viking, Banshee, Thor army, and this mech play style very effective against the Roaches, since the Roaches are battling up against these very fast attacking siege tanks, not even in siege mode. Finally going to go going into siege mode here and taking all of this down. Corruptors are out, and it looks like, yeah, the Corruptor is just getting shot down by the Vikings. A perfect escort there. The siege tanks perhaps shouldn't even bother to be in siege mode any longer, as we once see another counterattack trying to come in. 1 siege tank, a lot of Roaches just getting destroyed here. Snute with a small army, even though it does have a very, very high pop count, 182 to 192. Let's take a look at the overall harvester count, 67 to 63 now, as the Roaches are now pushing in. Vikings going to be going into ground mode in order to help and clean up all of these Roaches here. Beautifully done. The Vikings can then just jump back up into the air, and this army of siege tanks, where are they going next? All right. This base has been taken down. Snute essentially down into 1 base. This Mass Queen, Mass Broodlord army, how much damage can it do? We can see that there are drones all picked up in those Overlords. Nicely done. And oh, the Broodlords, will they be able to finish off those finish off those Thors? No, the Broodlords are slightly slower, but the Zerglings could try to come in for a surround. And here comes the counterattack. Mass Vikings already ready. Banshees are there. There's a quick cloak. The Banshees now cleaning up the Queens. The Broodlords trying to clean up the siege tanks, but there's just simply too many Vikings here. And now adding in some point defense drones from that Raven, and SuperNova is going to be taking game 1 in this series in a very well played game. Both sides doing fair amounts of damage at the right time, but SuperNova coming back over the top, having multiple orbital commands, being able to call down mules and replenish his income, even though he had lost 40-some workers in just a matter of seconds. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed Game 1 in this series. Stay tuned for Game 2.